Hi, everybody. I'd like to introduce Sarana Riggs. She's the Grand Canyon Program Manager from the Grand Canyon Trust, and we really thank her for being with us today. So look forward to hearing your talk, Sarana.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Can you guys hear me pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. All right, so I'm Sarana Riggs. I'm from the Navajo tribe. And I work at the Grand Canyon Trust. I've been there for a couple of years. Started off as a AmeriCorps member, and I worked my way up to Grand Canyon Program Manager. I'm really passionate about working on tribal lands and addressing environmental issues or cultural issues, cultural threats regarding resources or developments like Escalade and other things like that. I grew up near Peabody, so I grew up near a mine, and I've seen how a mine has devastated many communities and depleted a watershed. So that's a little bit of my background. Usually I'm talking at the guides training seminar, and I'm really sad that I didn't get to be there this year, and I'm really sad I didn't get to talk to a lot of folks on the river this year. But I look forward to a time when we can all be on the river soon, and I'm pretty sure not this year I'll be on this river, but whenever things calm down and get safe is when I'll be back on again. But for now, I'm happy to be here with all of you and talk a little bit about the work that we're doing. I'm gonna go into my slideshow here, and I see I'm gonna do my introductions other than myself. I'm gonna go with Roger Clark, who is my boss, and he's not on the screen and he's muted, so he's there. And then I'm gonna introduce Jack Pangyasva. He is our Intertribal Centennial Group manager. Go ahead, just say a little hi if you want to.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it. My name's Jack, and I help manage the ICCG program. It's been a great honor, and it's been a lot of fun seeing the program be built from the ground up. So we're really happy to be here and happy to be a part of all these training seminars and continue the tradition of keeping to, raise awareness and continue to keep a contemporary view of Native American alive and well in these training seminars, anything that relates to the Grand Canyon. So we're really happy to be here, and thanks Sarana. Thanks, everyone.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then I'm gonna have our new Grand Canyon program intern introduce himself, and he's on the screen as Lance.
Hi, everybody. I am the new, Grand Canyon program intern. I'll be developing curricula surrounding the Grand Canyon when it comes to indigenous perspectives as well as issues. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're gonna go into our presentation. And
Okay, everybody, let me just interrupt here really quickly. You see a few people over on the right, and the way to switch it to active speaker view, you see there's a little bar, a bigger bar, and a double bar above those people on the right. You're going to pick the middle option, the second from the left. That is, or the one in the middle. That is the active speaker view, and that will make sure that when Sarana's speaking, you will just see her. So just click on that now, and then you'll see Sarana and her great presentation.
the thing, I just usually do the salad dressing.
The asparagus?
Oh no, yeah, whatever. Sorry. Okay, thank you. And sorry, I'm a mom and everybody's always asking me stuff. So they're cooking. All right. Again, I did a little introduction. We're gonna be talking about a little things that we're working on surrounding the Grand Canyon. If you notice, you guys are familiar with this area. One of the things I first started working on is Save the Confluence. So working primarily, a lot of our work is centered around the tribal area of LCR into Colorado River, and with all 13 indigenous tribes that have a relation to Grand Canyon. Some of the things that, things that we've been talking about and working on is, I've been, COVID is really something for our tribal communities. It's really hard for us to battle this COVID situation. We don't have the infrastructure as many other people do in cities and communities. We don't have the infrastructure for electricity and mainly for water. We don't have clean drinking water sources, and a lot of us have to travel 70 to 80 miles away. And a lot of how we get water, and I'm saying this because I still haul water for my family. When we haul water in barrels or whatever container, we use a siphoning method. So, and looking at the siphoning method is, that's one way of how COVID enters home. And another is because of we're an intergenerational home and family, and, we're like that, and we're very close knitted. A lot of us are within one home structure. So I've been devoting a lot of my time to help out my community at Big Mountain around Peabody area. And there's also all the tribes that we're working with, like Havasupai and many other places that we're really trying to help out. So we started putting just a little bit of resources together for you. Havasupai, and there's a Conflena Mutual Relief Aid. Under the Conflena Mutual Relief Aid is a whole list of information on where you can possibly donate or run supplies to, or go through some training on how to be supportive and package food and boxes for all the people, or possibly, assist in the other way you can. But these are some of the things that we're asking right now. If you could, if anybody's looking to support or donate. That's just a little side something that we're helping out. And of course, this is many other people that are doing this. In response to that, there's another thing on there that's not listed, which is the red feather development and also the Conflena Mutual Relief Aid. In addressing the infrastructure of water, we're looking at how to build hand washing stations like we use on the river. So those are things that we're trying to utilize and put together and make for others out there. Yeah, so this is a little bit something on my little side. And of course, I'm pretty sure Jack and Lance are working in their own little communities on this and helping their families too. All right, so I talked a little bit about the 13 tribes that are related to the Grand Canyon. And the way we view from a tribal perspective is we don't see things that, as you see on the right side of the map, where you have the boundary of Arizona, Colorado, and so forth. You have we have our perspective on the left side, and that's usually through land markers and how we know where our boundaries are, and how we, like, say for myself as a Navajo person, our boundaries are within the 4 sacred mountains of Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, and a little bit of Colorado, and the water borders is what our borders are, the waterways. And then for all the other tribes, it's other mountain ranges, water pathways, or hills, or anything else. There's different boundaries, and it all relates to how we utilize the land in hunting, gathering plants, and farming, and for using these plants for medicinal uses, and also minerals for ceremony, and other plants like for tobacco and for medicine. Or collection of feathers, and certain places have one distinct flower or anything in one area, whereas we can't find it in other areas. So we do a lot of trading with all our relatives around the area. And so when we think about that, we look at it as how we once were together, and how we once traded with one another and interacted with one another, shared stories, shared cultural knowledge, many other things. And of course there's intermarriage in that, and there's also survival, and there's how maybe something happened, or there's with the incoming of new people in our area, how we help one another into overcoming different struggles. And we look at that right now, and we're doing the same thing. The Intertribal Centennial group was formed because we had looked at what the current Centennial of the Grand Canyon Park was celebrating, and we didn't see it as a celebration, because we looked at it as a reflection time of what we have accomplished within those 100 years, where things were 100 years before Grand Canyon National Park was established, and what has happened within that 100 years of span, that time frame right there, and how we currently look at it. Has things changed? Has things, what is our relationship right now with many different agencies? And so, we first addressed all the different things, historical trauma, and historical trauma meaning we were put into boundaries. Now we were put into reservations, and all those things are not good memories, being taken to school, and all of this, and fastly going into a Western civilization concept. So we're still struggling, and we're still trying to go with the flow, right, as a so to speak. And what we had thought about is that we need to address many things within the Grand Canyon National Park and other places beyond. We had to think about how we are viewed and how we are not viewed. When we are in Grand Canyon, we are not viewed, and there's not much talks of us mentioned about our indigenous perspective. And when you happen to be on the river, you see evidence of our history. You see a story, a panel on the wall. You see handprints that depicted our ancestors. You see, you see dwellings that were there for storage, and you can't see it, but there is farming areas there. And so we talk about all that, and how do we let people know that we were there, we still are here. And how do we change that narrative into this education model of telling our story? And that's something that Jack, Lance, and I are doing right now within Grand Canyon Trust. And we've been doing that for a couple of years now, changing that narrative and speaking at different presentations, and having an opportunity to speak to many people, including you guys, to change up that narrative and not just talk about the explorers that came and discovered something, but people that were there before then. And we also talk about, with the education model, it's not just us three. Us three, Lance, Jack, and I, are supporters. We support the group's initiatives. And so we support people like Colin Koska here from Havasupai, and many others from different tribes to highlight their voices, highlight their story, highlight their knowledge and their wisdom and their education surrounding the whole landscape that you see there. And there's many uses in this picture here. You can see trees, you can see the Grand Canyon, you can see the water below, and there's a story behind each one of them, and there's a name for each one of them in everybody's tongue. And that one point where she's standing at, she and her tribe, it could be called a name, but there's 13 individual names for that place, because there's 13 affiliated tribes. So going with that, we're doing all that we can in this education mode, and we're trying to fit a curriculum that is suited for you all to explain to the people that you're taking down the river. And if you're in other types of work, like interpreters or any of that, we're trying to help you to spread this message out there of what our stories are, and give you the resources for that. And other things that we've done, like I said, is, on this little slide here is all the places that we've talked at. And just recently we put together the story narrative, Voices of the Grand Canyon, which is now going to be featured down at Phantom Ranch. But you can view this, and I know it's hard to gather information and write things down as you're looking at a slideshow, so I'm able to share all of this with you. At the end of this presentation, my email will be there. One of the other things we had talked about was economy. And when we think about economy, you know, we're all thinking, of course, business minded and how to make money. But from our perspective, you know, we are looking at that model too of going to business school and trying to be entrepreneurs and looking at how we can create our own business models and how to tap into the tourism mode. And not just be selling on the roadside or anything like that. But we also look at how different types of economy are good and some are bad, and we look at the ones, of course, that we've seen that we thought were good for us, but ended up being bad. When the dams came into when Grand Canyon Dam was established, you know, people were promised infrastructure, electricity, water, and that didn't happen. When Peabody and NGS were established, the same thing, that didn't happen. When we look at Escalade, you know, that was also promised to the communities and those beyond. And, you know, that the families there were not consulted about this economic opportunity, and they saw that as something that was not going to be supportive for them or the community or the tribe. And so it was voted down. So people are really leery on how economy is looked at, and also looking at the cultural perspective of it. And that's the most important thing of this economic paradigm, is putting in that knowledge of our cultural perspectives. Places in the canyon are, water is an essential thing to us. Water is life. Water is in ceremony. Water has a name. Water is used for many, many things, and it nourishes all that above and below us, and even ourselves. So looking at the economy perspective and how we can address that is that we're supposed to have had this Grand Canyon Intertribal Economic Summit this past week, but because of COVID, we had to postpone it until hopefully next year. But in the meantime, we're looking at having webinars that lead up into that time when we can actually get together and be in a safe space where we can have all these different entrepreneurs, small business owners, or anybody else that's from an indigenous perspective, talk about their economy ideas and how they have gone through, how they started up their business and how they're thriving, and what could be changed in some of the business models for our tribal communities. So as you can see here, it was supposed to be at Albright Training Center, and as for the Intertribal Economic Summit, it was supposed to be, as I said, inclusive, and it all reflects all the objectives of the Intertribal Centennial group. Another thing that we, aside from education and economy, is the third option is that we talk about is stewardship. With the education that we're trying to implement, looking at the economy model of what it looks like right now and how we would like to change up that model. We also are looking at stewardship and how that stewardship looks like. Currently, it's an agency-to-agency model, and we have Grand Canyon National Park, which has created an intertribal working group with the 13 affiliated tribes. But we feel like that's not enough, because our elected leaders don't, you know, they speak for us, yes, but when it's a community issue, or we have vendors or business owners who are sitting up at bed and breakfast, or, you know, other things that have to deal with the tourism that's going through their communities, how do we talk about that? So with the Intertribal Centennial group, what we're looking at is not just the agency to agency, but from agency, Grand Canyon National Park, to community and to an individual, and have more of a voice, especially in the education model. So with that, we also look at how stewardship is that with the stewardship model, we want to also look at how things are portrayed with, I had mentioned cultural restart, extractive resources, and we look at uranium mining, Escalade, and all of that, and how the tribes were never consulted when these deals were made, and what it's until after a consultation or a deal was made that we find out that canyon mine is in place, or Escalade happened, or the dam proposal is going, and it was not acknowledged by us, and it's just an implemented idea. So we would like to be ahead of the game and be there present when these discussions happen. And not only that, we would like to have more, what the group has asked is how to have more internships with Grand Canyon National Park and other places to have our educated youth come back and work there within the park, and then work their way up into, we hope to be superintendent one day. That would be something that would be great. And Lance has a little bit of has a little bit of working knowledge in that realm too, where he was an intern over at Desert View, and now is working with interning us with at the Grand Canyon Trust, and we see that that's, you know, he's an example of that going into that stewardship role. All right, so let me go back a little bit. But with this group and the things that we're doing, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to take a year or two. The way that the group's perspectives are is that we see for the next 100 years, what do we want to work on, and what do we want to set in stone, and what do we want to carry on for future generations ahead of us in this objectives of education, economy, and stewardship. And we're doing all that we can right now, and we're making headway, and I see that it's a positive thing, and it has also brought all of the 13 affiliated tribes and beyond that together, and to talk about these issues that were kind of like hid under the rug or to be skirted around. And these are, but it did highlight a lot of things, and it's good to see when you're in a workshop or when we're having our intertribal meetings that you see 13 tribes, well, almost 13 tribes. I think we've had like 8 tribes together in one place, and it's really a great thing to have all of them set aside, you know, things that they have, little issues that they have, and to brainstorm and come up with a idea where they're all working together and they're all acknowledging and figuring out how to go overcome other little things in their issues that are happening on their tribes and their reservations. So I see it as a really positive and influential group here, and the work that we're doing is really fantastic. And I really got to commend a lot of the folks who have been working on this, and as us as a staff at the trust, you know, supporting the group's initiatives through this whole thing. And I don't know how much time we have, and I'm trying to make sure I don't run out of time. I think the last thing I'm going to talk about is the Little Colorado River Pump Hydro Storage Project. And you guys have heard a little bit about it. I'm not sure how much you guys know, but initially when this came around in the fall, end of last year, there was 2 proposals for 2 dams, but now that project has been scrapped and has been changed as of recently this week, and it's now changed to Big Canyon. And if you can see in this area, you see the Little Colorado River, and it eventually meets into the Colorado River. But where that first bend is to your left, there's a little canyon off to your right. It's called Big Canyon. And what is proposed is to have 1 big dam in that area. So sorry, there's going to be 4 dams right there. There'll be 1 down there, and there'll be 3 up on top, can recall that. Am I right, Roger? And within these, instead of just using the water, which we all know LCR is not an annual running river. We depend a lot on rainwater and all of that. And with the climate change and all that, the water has not always been, has not always ran fully throughout, most parts of the year. So this project, what it wants to do is to tap into the underground water there. So they want to drill some wells, and they would like to utilize the aquifer that's under there and use that water to help pump this storage here, this pump hydro storage. So how it works is that the water would be pumped up into the top of the wells above the dam into these areas, and then it would go there, and then it would flow back down. When it would flow back down with the release of water, it would generate electricity. And so this pump hydro storage would be, as you can see down here, it would be a lot more than what NGS had to offer, or Grand Canyon Dam. So that is, it sounds like a really good deal, but in reality it's not, because as I mentioned before, we look at the cultural resources, and we look at a fragile relationship between Navajo and Hopi. Even though pump hydro storage says Hopi has nothing to do with that because this is on Navajo land, there is legal standing within this whole LCR corridor here with water rights and with cultural shared spaces there. So those are the things that we're addressing and trying to highlight amongst this as we're doing our strategic move in stopping this pump hydro storage. As of now, there's a 60-day public comment period that's happening, but what we are asking with our own tribal leaders is to have Navajo Nation extend that to another 60-day public comment period. So if you guys could comment, that would be great. On the Grand Canyon Trust website, we do have a link to do a comment, or you can write your own comment. Or you can even go to the link here and you can write your own comments there. But I know I'm running out of time, and as I've said, you can always contact us at the Grand Canyon Trust, and we can do, if you guys would like us to have information shared with you on anything that I've talked about, we can share that with you. And if you would like more information and a longer presentation on, especially on the hydro storage project, just let us know too. And yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up there, and I just want to ask if you guys have any questions, and my email is down at the bottom if you guys want us to share any type of resources with you before you guys go out on your trips.
Thank you, Sarana. If you want to stop sharing your screen, we'll come back to kind of the group and we can stop recording. I'm going to pull everyone off of mute so we can say thank you so much to Sarana. If you have kind of your stuff on mute, which actually you might have to unmute yourself, but go ahead and unmute yourself. We'll give her a round of applause. Thank you, Sarana.
Yay! Thank you, Sarana.
Thank you so much.